Hello and welcome to this game review. So in this one we are going to talk about dynamic advantages and how at some point we should exchange them into something static, something that we can win as the game. So when we have a dynamic advantage such as a lead in development, which was the case here, or an attack on the king, some kind of initiative, we should calculate very concretely to figure out a way to exchange this advantage into a win or something more tangible like a big material advantage or a small material advantage, something that should win the game in the long term. So this was a Milner Berry Gambit, which is not really considered a very good opening nowadays. People play Rook E1 with the point to make some kind of useful moves. For example, if black takes here, this is considered kind of good for white as he can continue developing with tempo. And in the spirit of the Milner Berry Gambit, white has quite good compensation. But this is kind of considered to not work. And here, bishop b5 is, of course, a logical move to exchange pieces, but generally, black should avoid moving around the same pieces twice when he is so badly developed. Probably something like bishop c5 should be played, knight g7, try to castle as quickly as possible. Maybe b4 to stop, maybe a5 to stop b4. Okay, now black is still kind of okay, but here he should consider the opponent's move rook c7 and waste a move with queen d7. And again, if he gets developed, black would be more or less winning because he has the better bishop. He has a clear advantage in the protected passed pawn. Black's only problem is the undeveloped pieces, so if he gets developed, he will be fine. So now knight e7, but now rook c7 is a very nice move, invading with the rook, and now some kind of concrete problems might start. So knight c6 is played, and the white plays knight d4, which is a nice move, exchanging the knights. Black is forced to take, and now white is a lot better developed. Black is still playing without two rooks, and the king is in the center, so this pawn is not very important at the moment. The immediate threat is, I guess, to go here and rook to c8. So bishop e7 is played, and here black is threatening kind of bishop d8 and to castle. And here white plays rook fc1, but this is a bit abstract. So generally in chess, again, we have this advantage in development, right? But we are a pawn down, so we have to understand that if we don't do anything with our advantage, it will dissipate, it will go away, and we will just be left with a pawn down. So we should always calculate and look for very concrete solutions to find a way to win the game. And here, for example, the queen can be improved with tempo to g4. This should already be a very obvious move, because, for example, rook fc1 doesn't really threaten anything, I guess, because he can just take and go bishop d8. Plus here, after bishop d8, you're forced to go back. After queen d7, it's hard to find a very useful move, as now the c file is not possible to invade on, so it's not clear what was calculated here. And instead, with this queen g4 move, we are attacking g7, which is quite concrete, and if we take g7, white is more or less winning, because the attack will continue, this king will forever be in the center, and the black will not even have a pawn advantage. For example, if g6, something like queen f3, this I guess threatens to take and then play queen f6, which would be quite annoying, and after rook f8, bishop h6. Well, here bishop g5 is also a threat, I guess, because after bishop g5 this will be more or less checkmate, I guess. So this is quite a concrete move, and we should look for these concrete solutions. Of course, rook f1 is a very logical move to improve the rooks, but objectively it doesn't work. And now, after queen d7, black is fine. After queen a6, now queen g4 is found. b6 is played, which is a bit of a strange move, and here again, there was a very concrete solution to get the winning position. By simply taking on g7, we are attacking a rook. If he takes, we are taking here and taking more pawns. Now f7 is hanging, this is hanging, and even if our attack doesn't work, even if our short-term plan of giving checkmate doesn't work, we do have this pawn. We have one extra pawn, we can take another one. These pieces are terrible. So we should understand that this is basically just game over. We should calculate until here, and this is good enough. But again, white continues quite abstract. We plays rook c6, And this kind of overcomplicates things. Now, to win, we will have to kind of sacrifice on e6, stuff like this. This was completely not important to do. Queen g7, rook f8, just move the rook even, and there's nothing to calculate. Now we don't even have a disadvantage of a pawn. We can take h7. Worst case, we can get a queen like this. And so here we shouldn't complicate things and find the most concrete and simple solution that is possible. But instead, now the game kind of goes on. Now bishop c5, and now our bishop is kind of hanging at some point. And again, White's initiative is kind of dissipating. If Black has enough time to play like h5, maybe redevelop the queen somewhere, he will be more or less fine. But now White does find rook takes e6, which is the only move to continue the initiative. Black cannot take back. And there is this move bishop g5, which was played. And now, again, this move should have been calculated, as it's not clear what else Black should do. There is h5, but there's a check. And this is a mate in one threatened, right? So we should assume Black would move the bishop or maybe move the queen. But bishop g5 attacks the rook, which is quite concrete. And here White wins only by the very specific move rook c6, which I think is more or less impossible to find because firstly it doesn't really threaten anything. After this there is e6, which does threaten capturing and checkmating. After f6 we need to find, well, rook c7 is kind of simple, but the bishop f8 is a very strange move. This is probably not really findable. The idea of e7 and eventually White wins. So this was very complicated. Taking on g7 when it was possible was way simpler. And when we're calculating variations, we should find the simplest possible win. We should not look for these amazing wins with rook takes c6. And here, if rook c6 is not found, well, then Black is getting developed. The rook is now kind of hanging. Here, queen c8 would have won some material because the rook is now pinned, and Black is now winning suddenly. After queen b7, here rook e7, I mean, this of course blunders a rook in one move, and this is also the problem. When we're out of time, silly blunders like this will start happening. Of course, the rook is attacked, so we should just move it. And the white is of course better. I'm not sure what was miscalculated here, because the rook has only one square, and it is attacked, so we should really overthink it. And now both bishops are attacked. White is still attacking. There is no disadvantage in material, so White should be slightly better. But rook e7, I mean, this can only happen when we're out of time. So when you're in time trouble, you have to understand you're already in trouble. We must do everything we can to not get in time trouble. And before this, maybe we should have solved some puzzles before the game got warmed up, because this is very concrete. And here I think queen g7 should just be played without overthinking too much, as it's clearly not losing anything. The rook is attacked, and we are winning material, and this does not even require calculation. And after rook c6, this is just overcomplicating things. Now to win, we will have to sacrifice on e6, which may or may not work, but during a game, we can't be absolutely sure about everything. And now, unfortunately, we are out of time, and a silly blunder like this happened, and now we are down a rook for nothing. So hopefully this was useful, and hopefully in your next calculations you will not overcomplicate things, and when you see a simple win like queen takes g7, you will go for it.